single dad lived in a shed to educate her twin sons. 30 years later, they returned with shocking surprise. In the quiet town of Maplewood, a single father's unwavering love sparked a journey no one could have imagined. For 7 years, James Carter lived in a tiny 10x12 shed, sacrificing comfort and stability, all to give his twin sons a chance at a better life. Working long nights at the factory and studying by the dim light of a worn-out lamp, James refused to let hardship define their future. It was the spring of 1995 when James first held his newborn boys, Jake and Mason, in his arms. His small apartment wasn't fit for a family, but his determination was bigger than any room. A former mechanic, James had lost his wife during childbirth, leaving him alone with the responsibility of raising twins. Despite the crushing grief and the harsh reality of their living conditions, James made a promise to give Jake and Mason an education that would open doors he never had the chance to walk through. Every night he pored over textbooks after grueling shifts, his hands calloused but his spirit unbreakable. One chilly evening, the shed creaked under the wind, but inside James read stories to his boys, planting seeds of hope and ambition. Their world was small, but their dreams were vast. Little did James know, 30 years later, those dreams would come back to him in a way that would shock the entire town and change lives forever. James Carter wasn't always a man confined to a shed and late-night study sessions. Before tragedy struck, he worked as a skilled mechanic in a busy Detroit garage, known for his steady hands and calm demeanor. Married to his high school sweetheart Laura, they had dreams of a simple, happy life, buying a modest home, raising a family, and growing old together. But life took a cruel turn when Laura passed away during childbirth, leaving James shattered and alone with newborn twins. With no family nearby and limited resources, James faced a devastating choice: give up or fight harder than ever before. Determined not to let his boys grow up without opportunity, James sold what little they had and moved into the small garden, shed behind a friend's house. There, amid cramped walls and a leaky roof, he made a home, turning hardship into a classroom and love into a lifeline. Every scar on James' hands and every sleepless night told the story of a father's sacrifice. His past shaped his fierce determination, and his heart beat only for Jake and Mason, the boys who would carry his legacy forward, no matter the odds. One frigid autumn evening, just weeks after moving into the cramped shed, James faced the moment that would forever change their lives. After a long day juggling 2 jobs, he came home to find Mason running a high fever, shivering under thin blankets. With no car and no immediate access to a doctor, James wrapped his son in every spare coat he had and rushed to the nearest clinic. A grueling 20-minute walk through biting cold and swirling leaves. At the clinic, the doctor's worried expression confirmed James's worst fears. Pneumonia had taken hold quickly. The medical bills piled up, but James refused to give up. It was in those desperate nights, rocking Mason and Jake side by side, that James made a silent vow. No matter what, his boys would have a future far brighter than their beginnings. That trial tested every ounce of James's strength, but it also ignited a fierce resolve within him, one that would drive him to sacrifice everything to educate his sons and break the cycle of hardship that had threatened to consume them all. As the days turned into weeks, the weight of responsibility pressed heavier on James's shoulders. The small shed, once just a temporary refuge, now felt like a cage, but he never showed it. One night, after putting Mason and Jake to sleep, James sat alone in the dim light of a flickering lamp, clutching a letter from the boys' school. It was a notice of unpaid tuition, threatening to pull them out if the fees weren't covered soon. That letter was a crushing blow, but it sparked something fierce inside James. He remembered the promise he'd made during those cold nights at the clinic, the vow to give his sons the education he never had. The next morning, with tired eyes but unwavering determination, James set out to find extra work, to stretch every dollar, and to protect his boys from losing their chance at a better life. This moment became the true turning point. The hardship wasn't just a challenge, It was the fuel that forged James into a relentless warrior for his son's future, ready to sacrifice everything to see them succeed. Days bled into months, but James never wavered. The shed, cramped and cold, became a fortress of hope, stacked with worn books, makeshift desks, and the soft hum of determination. Each morning, he rose before dawn, juggling 2 jobs, delivering newspapers before sunrise, and working nights at a nearby factory, never letting the boys see his exhaustion. Mason and Jake, young but fiercely bright, soaked up every lesson with wide eyes, their laughter a rare light in the shadows of hardship. Neighbors whispered about the man living in the shed, doubting his methods, but James paid no mind. His world was small but fiercely guarded. Every scraped knee, every tired sigh from the boys, tightened his resolve. He patched together meals from food banks, patched holes in the shed with whatever he could find, and made sure the boys' school supplies never ran dry. The toughest nights came when the boys asked why they couldn't have a real home, their voices tinged with confusion and longing. James swallowed the lump in his throat, masking the pain with a gentle smile. "We're building something better," he'd say. "One day, you'll see." And deep down, he believed it, because hope was the only thing richer than the cold, whined outside their little shed. One freezing winter night, after a long day stacking shelves at the grocery store, James returned to the shed to find the heating system had failed completely. The old space heater sputtered and died, leaving the tiny room bitterly cold. Mason and Jake huddled together under threadbare blankets, their chattering teeth betraying their exhaustion and discomfort. James's heart clenched. He knew this couldn't go on. That night, as the temperature dropped well below freezing, James sat by the dim glow of a single candle, wrestling with his despair. He had poured every ounce of strength into keeping his boys safe and educated, but now it felt like everything was slipping through his fingers. The weight of hopelessness threatened to crush him, but then Mason looked up and whispered, "Dad, we'll get through this, right?" In that fragile moment, James made a decision. He realized survival wasn't just about endurance. It was about seeking help, trusting others, and fighting smarter, not just harder. The next morning, he reached out to a local community center, revealing his situation for the first time. What started as a desperate call for warmth and food soon became a turning point, a breakthrough fueled by the kindness and support of people who believed in their story. With fresh resources, a small team of volunteers helped repair the shed and secure stable housing. More importantly, James found allies who offered tutoring programs, job opportunities, and emotional support. It was the moment the impossible began to shift, the moment hope transformed from a quiet whisper into a roaring fire that could no longer be ignored. Years passed, and the small shed that once symbolized struggle became a distant memory. James's relentless determination had paved the way for a brighter future, not just for his sons, Mason and Jake, but for an entire community inspired by their story. The twins grew into remarkable young men, shaped by hardship, but fueled by their father's unyielding love and sacrifice. Mason became a teacher, dedicating his life to children from underprivileged backgrounds, ensuring they had access to the pure education he once fought so hard to secure. Jake pursued social work, driven by the desire to give back to families facing the same challenges his own once endured. Their paths intertwined with a network of community programs, each one born from the kindness and support that had lifted their family out of darkness. James, too, found his purpose beyond survival. He became a local advocate for homeless families and veterans, speaking at schools and city halls, reminding everyone that even the most desperate situations can be transformed through resilience and community. His story, once whispered in the shadows of that cold shed, now echoed as a beacon of hope and change. Together, their legacy was a testament to the power of sacrifice, perseverance, and the unbreakable bonds of family. The man who once lived in a tiny shed to educate his twin sons had unknowingly sparked a movement, one that would inspire countless others to rise above adversity and believe in the promise of a better tomorrow. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to smash that thumbs up and hit subscribe for more unforgettable, emotional, and viral true stories. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell us, where in the world are you watching from?